So Russ, the church today and our culture that we live in, they seem to be going in different directions, and it seems as though that we're losing ground, and Christians have adopted a particular model over the last few decades on how best to interact with the culture and try to win the culture. Briefly tell us how we've done that in the past, and if that's worked, and if not, why.
Well, in some ways, it has worked, because one of the things that the church did early on, or at least some of the movements coming out of the church, was in the 1970s to say to mainstream American culture, we really do share a lot of similar concerns with you. And so to say on the issue of life, to talk about the fact that this isn't just a religious issue, it isn't just a Catholic issue as it was seen at the very beginning, but it's an American issue. This is grounded in the Declaration of Independence. It's grounded in the Constitution. It's grounded in who we are as Americans. And so there was this call to America to see the fact that as a majority of people, we really do have a lot of consensus and common ground on certain issues, on the importance of the family, on the importance of protecting human life, on what some people called traditional values. A lot of that language was being used. I think what's happened is that American culture has changed in many ways. In some ways, that was an illusion. In some ways, there was an illusion of agreement where there really wasn't much agreement, but in some ways there really was. That is changing now demographically as American culture has become more and more secularized.
Whereas the illusion is going away now.
Well, yes, the illusion is going away, and so and some of the reality is going away as well in terms of shared values in America. And so, for instance, a lot of the arguments that were being used in the 1970s were seeking to persuade abortion rights supporters that the unborn child is a child, the unborn child is a person, and therefore deserving of rights, that this is a human being, sanctity of human life. We're living in a time now where many abortion rights supporters will concede, especially at the grassroots level, will concede that this is a child, will concede that this is human, but they don't believe that that is deserving of life at all. So the differences have become much more divergent when it comes to the more basic questions.
And so as this illusion's gone away and we see the difference between these two sides more vividly, how well will the old approach work moving forward?
Well, we have to recognize we're in a different time. We have to recognize that we're really not standing up with the mainstream of American culture on many things. On some things we are, but on many of the things that we're talking about. And so I think one of the worst mistakes that we could make is to try to make Christianity normal for American culture. And I think in a lot of ways we've done that in the past. To say, Christianity really isn't that strange to you. It's what you already believe as a traditional values-holding American. We're just adding Jesus to it and heaven. That's not what Christianity is. And so as American culture secularizes, the more Christianity and the gospel particularly is going to seem freakish and strange. That's not anything to panic about. When the Christian gospel is proclaimed, and when people actually understand what we're talking about, it's going to seem freakish and strange. And that's one of the things that's happening in the New Testament. Jesus and the apostles never run from the strangeness of Christianity. As a matter of fact, they press it. So Jesus, every time that the crowds, for instance, seem to be on board with him, they share his values about feeding the multitudes, or about announcing that the kingdom is coming, or about the newness of the kingdom as opposed to Rome. Jesus always steps back and says, I don't think you understand what I'm saying. And what I'm saying actually is much stranger than you think. I think we're living increasingly in that same sort of world, and that's what we need to do, is to reclaim the seeming freakishness of Christianity, to say what we believe in is a previously dead man who is now ruler over the entire universe, who asks you to submit your entire self to him. That's going to seem odd and strange in American culture increasingly, but I think that's an opportunity for us to be a people of good news.
Yeah, so it seems like then this is really not, obviously has negative implications to it, but it really could present to us a new opportunity moving forward then.
There are negative implications for the country because a Christian-seeming, Christianish sort of America kept some bad things from happening. But this sort of move towards secularization is going to have bad implications in many ways. For instance, a decrease in marriage, a decrease in understanding what marriage is about. There are a lot of people, for instance, early in the 20th century, there were a lot of people who didn't get divorced, not because they held to a biblical understanding of marriage, but because it would have meant the end of all sorts of social ties in their communities. They wouldn't have been able to have been promoted at the place where they worked, or would have cut off relationships with their families. As time went on, that changed, and a lot of people were harmed and a lot of people were hurt. So there are going to be negative implications. But what it does mean is that you no longer have an almost gospel sort of Christianity made up of genuine believers and nominal believers, people who believe in Christianity as presented in the New Testament, and people who hold to Christianity because it's the normal American thing to do, which means you're going to have a clearer contrast, and Christianity always thrives when there's a clear contrast between itself and the outside culture.
So then moving forward then, there's negatives, there's also positives. You've also been pretty instrumental, especially in your new role as the president of the ERLC, in calling for a new kind of approach that's not quarrelsome, it's kind, it's gracious. Tell us exactly what you're getting at there.
Well, I think we need to be convictional. I think we need to be very clear about what it is that we're saying. And we need to push back, as Flannery O'Connor would say, against the spirit of the age. But we do that in a particular way. We do that in the way that Jesus did, which means that we see that our ultimate goal is not to win arguments. Our ultimate goal is to win people, and our ultimate goal is to press the gospel. So we preach a message, as Carl Henry used to put it, of both justice and justification, and we keep both of those two things held together. So the people that we're arguing with in the public square, and we do argue, we do debate, but the point is to persuade. Sometimes we're not going to be able to persuade the person we're talking to right now, but we're able to persuade people who are overhearing this conversation about whatever it is, about life, about marriage, about the cultural fabric, about whatever. And ultimately, our goal is to press the gospel. So we never stop short of the gospel. There's always that message that freedom and reconciliation with God is found in the person of Jesus Christ. So we see ourselves as evangelists as well as advocates, and advocates as well as evangelists, and those two things must go together.